I came here to save you.
The fortress is taken.
It is over.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
You're my only hope.
We shall fight on the beaches.
There will be days when we lose faith.
We band of brothers.
But take heart. Look around. You're not in this fight alone.
I bid you stand! Men of the West!
Okay, hello everybody. This is Caleb.
This is Dan.
And we're the KingsAdvisors. And today we are both reviewing the third episode of National Treasure. And by far the best of the first three yet. We'll do the fourth episode later, but we wanted to go ahead and get three done. And I have to say, Dan, I think you said something earlier. This episode was not as bad as you were expecting.
No, it had moments, and don't get me wrong, let me start off with saying it is cringy. Like,
yes. You
gotta absolutely be wanting to watch a show about National Treasure stuff to watch this show. Like, on its face, exactly. It's just like every other show. It's just plucky band of young, diverse adults need to go and do this thing that other people just don't understand. And it's just so tiring. And it's just like such a huge trope behind it. But as the episode progressed, I did find myself seeing the elements in the show that in other shows, maybe in a different time, it would actually be interesting to see. And we can get into that a little bit more. But I just as a preface, I really think that this show would be better off if it was more of a serialized manner. Like each week or each pair of episodes, I think pairs of episodes would be best, where the team has to kind of figure out a different mystery. And I know that's a little bit more like Scooby-Doo, but it feels too much like girl who's the key to everything, and this is not going to be a season 2 kind of show because all of their talents.
It feels like there are a lot of tropes that they've troped out for this, and it's like, guys, we've already showed to you the last 4 years these things don't work anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like even internalized in the show, I feel like they're playing too much on each of the characters for this specific season. Like girls, both her parents were involved, and she's like the key to figuring this out because it's personal to her. Whereas the white guy is, his dad was involved in this exact mystery. So he's also got some skin in the game, as he puts it. But also Asian guy likes, Mexican girl, or excuse me, Incan indigenous girl. I'm not sure what to call her. I just, what's her name?
Jess.
I don't even know. Jess. So he likes
and
Jess.
That's the thing. The actress, I think, is doing as well as she could. I think she is, for me at least, the best part of the show.
She actually have a different take on that. Yeah,
she has terrible lines, but I feel like, for me, it kind of, and I'm just giving a metaphor here or a simile, but it's kind of like episode 2 Star Wars for me, where it's like you could see where they're going. You can kind of see some brilliance, but then you get that like 2000 or 1999 writer's strike dialogue, and it's like, what were you doing, George?
Yeah, it's funny because when you bring up the prequels, you gotta go and watch Red Letter Media's prequel.
Oh, I've seen it.
Okay, so you've gotten
there. Yeah, long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's got a poignant quote. Mike has a poignant quote. Excuse me, Mr. Plinkett has a poignant quote where it's like, would you rather see complete control in one man's hands and they have mistakes like bad dialogue and too much control, or the corporate control where it's too many cooks in the kitchen? So it's like, I always take the prequels with a grain of salt of like, yeah, well, at least it was one guy's vision.
Yes,
like that's kind of admirable to me. Like, okay, so bad dialogue, he's not perfect, right? You know what I mean? And that's doesn't do the movie any favors, but with getting back to this show, it's more like I can see these elements in it that I would in a different situation like I like when they go in the scene, let's see, I think it's scene 4 or 5, scene 5, where they go into the clue room and it shows you all the stuff from the previous movies. And like,
yes, that was
I don't know. I know that it was. I have literally National Treasure member berries written down there.
Yeah,
and I know I
so
was like, oh, okay, they're playing off my emotions, but I didn't hate that.
it was cool seeing it. It was cool seeing it. The problem
we're
is
acknowledging that these things happen,
right? But the problem with it is, do you notice that there are signs that say "Do not touch"?
I didn't even see that. I was
Yeah.
more
So
towards
this is one of the things that doesn't make sense. This is a secret room inside of Sandusky's house. Randos aren't dropping by, and so there are signs that say "Do not touch." In his
oh my god! So why would he have those written? Why would he have notes to himself written?
Exactly. Why
like
would
that
he have,
too? Like beware of Salazar. Like surely this man would know Salazar and to beware of him.
Yeah. Now if that's like a message, like if he was writing a message of a message to himself, or because he is kind of, I think we're supposed to be told like he's kind of losing it. He's got dementia or something. But I've known people with dementia and late stage Alzheimer's. They don't act like he was acting in that first episode. So I don't think it was far enough in for him to actually be having to leave messages to himself like that.
Yeah. Also, like, just side note, Sandusky is Harvey Keitel's character, correct? The agent who's leaving the clues.
Yeah.
Okay. Bad name, right? Like that name aged poorly. We maybe should have just called him by his first name.
Yes,
you know, like,
it did
it's John,
poorly.
not this guy. Even if it's the canonical name for the series.
Well, that's like what's the Adam Sandler movie where he goes to Sandusky Middle School?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it just used to be classic name, like it's
and
just,
now it's just like,
probably should have just avoided it, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of start off, and that was my overall thoughts. Again, there's stuff in there that I like, and not just like the member berries of like, oh, there's the pipe from the first movie. I liked it. I could see where there's a lot of like actual care put into this storyline. Like there's somebody behind the scenes.
There's a couple things I want to hit on in that second episode real quick, because I didn't hit on them in my first review. So the first thing I want to hit on is how garbage the obsidian thing looks. It looks like it was made in China last week. It doesn't look like it's 500 years old. I don't think it would have been hard to make it look 500 years old. So I feel like, come on, guys, y'all could have done better.
Was that the box?
Yeah, the box.
Oh yeah, it looked brand new.
The like mother box.
This slate inside of it. Showed in this episode.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll get to that. And then the puzzles. Okay. It's ridiculousness. Like I kind of get that everything's going to be a little bit easier because they are younger than Ben Gates. So because they're supposed to be able to solve everything, the stuff is going to be easier. But making sure the bunny has a clear path to the middle thing, come on. And then, like you said, when they open it and it just looks factory made yesterday, it's terrible.
It looks like it was 3D printed.
The other thing, which they miss in the third episode, is she has to point this thing true north. Which actually, if I recall, they say true north, but is it true north actually a different direction than directional north? Because isn't directional north the magnetic north?
Let's look.
See, I thought that'd be one of those things you kill me on. Oh, you know what? I think he might have exited the stream by accident, but he'll be back. So I'm going to keep going on some of the issues I have with the second episode. So as they go to make the trade for Sneaker Boy and the box, they go to the USS Kidd, which is a decommissioned naval vessel, no longer part of the United States Navy. So a member of the Shore Patrol, which is the Navy's version of the military police, would not be on that boat. Absolutely ridiculous. The only chance that they would have for a member of the Shore Patrol to be on that boat is for there to be like a event going on. And clearly there's not an event going on. So that's just plot hole where they needed some big strong guy to make a point, or they needed Catherine Zeta-Jones to beat the guy, but just a really stupid. It took me 2 text messages to confirm whether or not CPs would be on a decommissioned vessel, and this is a $60 production, and theirs is multi-millions of dollars. Just really, it's just lame.
How about the actual? Because these big productions have consultants on there. Like
exactly, yeah.
Somebody there, they have like special people who represent these soldiers too, like special agents.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean agents like federal agents. I mean agents like Hollywood agents.
Yeah.
So, like somebody along the line should have been like, "Hey, by the way, this is not right." You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like it was in somebody's ear at one point, and I think that's the part we find like inexcusable. Is it's just like. You have the assets. Like if people in like the 60s and the 70s had the assets that people had today, who knows what kind of movies we would have had back then. But it's just,
Yeah. Well, see, the big problem is, okay, the reason most military stuff isn't really messed up until like the 90s is because half the people on that set would have served.
Right.
So they would know.
And the boom guys and the guys with the cameras, like those guys were all vets, a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
Especially in Hollywood. Like especially like on a port city.
But yeah, I think the other issue I have before we get into 3 is they constantly talk about how she's DACA, and if she messes up, she can get deported. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think it's just a plot point. And like I almost find it compelling. And that's what I mean. Like there's parts of this where they're like, hey, we're trying to have character drama here. Like this girl,
exactly,
she's risking a lot and she can't get in trouble. And this guy cares about it, whereas this guy doesn't care, but then he kind of does, but it's still like not his place to care. So it's like there's all these character things going on there. Like, do I care? Do I care? No. You know what I mean? Like this girl should not be in this situation where it's like it's so convoluted. But I understand as a writer, you kind of need to have these like these plot points of like, and we'll get into that because that really comes up in episode 3 a lot. He reveals it to the other guy.
Yeah,
and I didn't even know it was a
then
secret. I was like,
then the will they won't they? Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and move in. So, so far going into the 3rd episode, I'm sitting at like, okay, this is like a 3 at best. And I'll be honest, the 3rd episode raised it to like a 4, maybe a 4.5 for me. There are parts of the 3rd episode. There are parts of the 3rd episode that I was like, this is kind of cool. This is kind of peak National Treasure. It doesn't last very long, but there definitely are moments that I was like, this is actually kind of good. If the whole show was this,
I mean, let's be honest. Show. Like, they're not exactly stealing the Declaration of Independence, are they?
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing like. It was cute that they referenced it, like, "Oh, hey, I was the guy who did that." Like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay,
yeah.
Like, first of all, you shouldn't be working there anymore. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't. But
exactly,
that's a conversation.
Yeah.
But, all right, so we're going to go into episode 3.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's many FBI office, field office COs that made a blunder as big as that.
Right. Yeah. No. And it's not even just. It's like you yourself, guy, should like take a step back and be like, you know what? I'm obviously in over my head. Like I have no business doing this anymore. I was just made a fool out of. And if they can make a fool out of me, they can make a fool out of anybody. So, that's the mentality you should have. Is like, look, who was supposed to catch that? I'm not a cutout for this. Which I think is like the approach that nobody in DC has.
Yeah.
But that's different. So
it starts off with them watching this video that they find in the 2nd episode.
Hold on. There's way more than that. It's just like the overacting and the sleeping. Like he's like, oh, yeah, bro, I'm so tired. And it's like you get the shoving buddies part where it's like, we're all actually buddies. And I'm like, I don't believe this at all. You know what I mean? I think you're going to somebody else's house.
he just got dumped like 2 days ago. He's not
Yeah.
going, oh yeah, come on in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely
he's got
not.
the old tech they need. Like, okay, all right.
Well, I know
next,
plenty of those people.
They're all made up. Like literally,
Yeah.
they look perfectly in designer clothes with designer makeup. It's like,
And the
okay, you all
stranger
look like-
and a stranger's just walked into his apartment and he's like, oh hey, nice to meet you.
yeah.
There's
the
no
guy goes, I know who
who's
I'm
this?
rooting for.
Yeah.
Bro goes, I know who I'm rooting for, and
They all look at him like
they all,
the
and he goes,
White
"Oh,
Devil."
don't cancel me." So it's kind of basically, it's like, "Oh, don't worry, toxic opinions will be canceled."
Yeah, exactly.
Like not like, "Hey, we would never do that to you. We know you were just making a joke and you're trying to make light of this." You know what I mean? Like this is, but like, they just stare at him like, "We'll cancel you in a second." You know? Let's see. Daughters of the Plumed Serpent doesn't make any sense because they thought Cortez was the Plumed Serpent, so that was annoying.
Exactly.
Ancient Tribe Girl is the key to everything, but that's not John Voight. Remember John Voight, the father, Ben Gates' father from the first one.
Right.
He's like the wise, here's what you need to do, and you always follow your heart, and you never give up. You know what I mean? Like that moral compass. Harvey Keitel is not John Voight, right? So I don't his kind of like just believe in yourself moment there was pretty cringy.
I liked I did like, and this is probably just because I thought it was kind of corny, but definitely something I think I would say. I did like the whole, are there subtitles? And then Jess starts translating. I thought that was kind of a clever little thing.
I don't buy that anybody would be able to do that on their first, like, unless she's a trained translator for like events. That's a skill. That's like somebody who's held a phone is somebody who's able to be a court reporter. Yeah, you have to listen and translate simultaneously. Like that's a huge skill. Like it's not just like, oh, I speak Spanish, so therefore I can translate this video from the 70s as it's going for the room to understand and follow along.
See, I mean, I totally get that. I just kind of thought it was, I didn't see it as oh look, here's another skill she's got.
Oh, see, I saw
it as just more of a, well, of course she'd be able to.
I guess to me it's like the equivalent of like somebody who types emails is able to like suddenly be a court reporter.
Okay.
Like it's a skill. Like you're not just able to like, I mean, it's two languages at once, and you're not even you're listening in one language and then instantly in the moment translating it for audible listeners. So like,
it's not like they're in,
like the EU employs hundreds of like thousands of them. The UN has thousands of them. Like it's a career.
So yeah, and it's not like they live in a border town. They're in Louisiana. How often do you use Spanish in Louisiana?
I mean, people use Spanish everywhere now. Like I have no problem with her being like, "Oh, I'm actually fluent in Spanish." Like, okay.
Oh well, no, fine. I would expect her to be, but what I mean is, it's not like if she used Spanish every day.
Like, hold on, here's a moment. Like, here would have been clever. Like, now we have a moment where it's like, okay, well, how do we listen to this old tape? You know what I mean? Like, it would take Jess hours to translate it for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's writing things down and being like, is that what he said there? Like, because if you really think about it, they only have the one time when she says it as she translates to listen to it again for clues. It's like, okay, well, we better hope we all got it. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you rather have, and I don't know her name, but the tech girl, wouldn't it be nice if she was like, okay, now that I am able to view it, I'm going to we're going to download the file, right? We're going to convert the file into a digital format, and then I'm going to run it through a program. We'll have Spanish subtitles and a transcript. Like, that's cool. Like, that would establish her usefulness. Like, hey, you're right. We don't really think about these issues of how this technology would actually work and how we would go back and listen to it again. You know what I mean? Oh, otherwise we're just, we're following the script. And that just kind of a small thing I feel like they could have done. It's like, hey, we need your camcorder so I can plug it into my PC so that way I can convert the tape. Oh, that's fine. Right? Am I wrong? Or is that, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's one of those reasons why it's good to have multiple people and something like this.
Right. Well, you have a whole team here. right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this when they were in the car. I was like, okay, well, Jess, Dude Bro, and Tech Girl are all in the car. Why are there so many people in the car? Like, Jess and Tech Girl should be out causing distraction for the guy. What if he didn't come back in time?
Yeah.
Right? Was Jess going to be able to go and talk to the exterminator, or did she have to look stressed out in the van? But we'll get there. I actually thought that the flashback was bad, where she was like, hey, we're pregnant and dancing. I'm like, okay, we get it. They were in love.
I pulled up the script. And real quick, I want to go through what she says. The translation of her mother. Thousands of years ago, before the Europeans arrived, a bunch of independent tribes spanned the Americas. True, correct. Nice job. Some of them passed their history and culture down through textiles and art. True. Yes. Nice job. Whenever war broke out, some of the women fled with their sacred objects so their history would be preserved. Don't think so.
Why?
Well, first off, it would make sense that women would have fled because it would have been unlikely. Right. That's the issue. It's the other issue is they fail to remember that the Mesoamerican civilizations did not think gold was worth anything because it was so abundant.
Well, I'm sure they thought it was worth something.
What I mean,
if they thought it had
if you remember when Cortez arrived, the Aztecs just kept giving it to him because they were like, "Oh, we don't. We got £1 billion of it down the street. We don't need to give."
Well, he also was asking for it. I think true. I think it's moments like that maybe, like, as a student of history, I can, like, kind of suspend my disbelief. I'm like, okay, well, I'm sure they probably thought it was valuable, but they also probably thought this man was special and he was asking for it, right? You know what I mean? And so it's like I can kind of believe, like, they built their stuff out of it. They obviously knew that it had some importance to them. But
also their sacred objects.
There's like a secret intelligence organization of women.
Their sacred objects.
That the threat is so secret, or the threat is so powerful that they have to get. And they're not even just religious artifacts or scrolls or, like, information. It's like treasure. It's like, why would they carry treasure? And they didn't have horses or mules. So you're talking about
the stuff that they would have been secreting away would not have been, the death masks with gold plate and ruby eyes. I think I'm being a little generalized there, but it would have been, information of theirs, cultural things, pots.
If that was a plan, or they were looters and they were looting the treasury.
So I could believe that there were people that said, "Oh, we might lose. Let's run away with some of our stuff." Would it all have been a bunch of women that were hiding the treasury? Highly doubt it. Over time, a treasure grew until the greatest threat arrived, the conquistadors. Again, why do we constantly denigrate the conquistadors? Yes, a complete destruction of civilizations is not a good thing. It was not the conquistadors. There were literally like 200 Spanish conquistadors that arrived with Cortez. It wasn't them that destroyed the Aztecs. It was the rest of the tribes that the conquistadors were like, "Hey, those guys in that big city? Well, they've been, like, sacrificing your women for, like 300 years now. What if we helped you overthrow them?" That's how it happened. It wasn't an invading army from an empire across the sea. And then you've got Oren, the tech guy, the stupid guy, saying, "I know who I'm rooting for. I'm pro goddess. Do not cancel me." But there was
that's the line I was telling you about. Like, it was implied in the world that, like, no, we will cancel you.
Yeah,
like we almost just did if you didn't clarify.
But there was one brave woman. Again, this is the 5th time we've had the word woman, who risked her life to save the treasure from the conquistadors. Malinche, an enslaved Nahu teenager who was forced to work for Hernan Cortez. Who is Hernan Cortez? Wasn't Cortez's first name Hernandez?
Yeah, I mean, I could see somebody saying, like, Hernan de Cortez, I think.
Is that just a mistranslation that I've just learned as his actual name, you think?
Yeah, Hernan Cortez, also sometimes Hernando Cortez.
Okay. Well, that's fine. And you got to remember that she is translating for her mother. So her mother is saying this in Spanish to the people that are supposed to be critiquing her thesis. So this is her thesis she's giving. It's her PhD thesis that she's giving. And how that works is when you give your thesis, you have to defend your thesis. And so eventually, anyone that knows this eventually knows that later on in the scenes, we're going to see people saying, you're wrong. So we get to that. Well, actually, we get to that after one of the dumbest jokes I've ever seen. Oh, she was a master spy? Like Brian O'Connor from Fast and Furious. R.I.P.
Again, this is one of those scenes where they're doing too much with, like, everyone's got to have their moment. Like, there's too many people on the screen, right? Like, it's like, I almost like, I had this written down in my later notes. Like, I enjoyed it more when there was like one or two of them in a scene together. Like, and I liked the Graceland where they all had a role to play. But like in this scene where it's like, we're all actually just making whippy dialogue. I'm like, okay, why? Why should this guy sit there and let you tell him what to do and think in his own house? Like, tell me why. Like, be like, hey, by the way, like, maybe he's greedy. Maybe he wants money. Maybe he's the Instagram guy that the bad iPad lady is talking about.
Yeah. So,
but then he gets more won over in time. Like, oh, actually, you know what? Instagram's not the most important thing, bro.
Yeah. And so one of the last things she says is, once the treasure was hidden, the women created a treasure map and broke it into 3 pieces, giving one each to the Aztec, Inca, and Maya, with the idea that once the conquistadors were vanquished, they would come together again to rejoin the pieces of the map and find the treasure. Again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. The Professor Mansplainer even says it for me. The Aztec, Inca, and Maya did not communicate with each other. They hated each other. The Aztec went as far to find and murder as many Inca as they could. And the reason they didn't try and find and murder the Aztec or the Maya is because by the time the height of the Aztec Empire, the Mayan Empire was gone. Because I believe the Inca had wiped them out. But yeah. So then the guy gets up to argue against, the perfect female and says, every scholar agrees the Inca and Mesoamerican civilizations never communicated, let alone worked together to hide a great treasure, yada, yada, yada. And it's just a whole bunch of mansplaining and yelling at the poor woman. It's every trope.
Worse than that too. If you notice, he's actually
he's like standing up ready to attack. Like it looks threatening.
It's so cringy because if you notice, he's actually like the lighter skinned of the scholars. Like he is like, again, this is where it comes down to like just simple facts where it's like, there's a lot of Spanish people that are white. Like it's just because they speak a different language. I mean, Germans and English speak a different language and they're the same color. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm just saying there's a lot of white Spanish people. And so he is like the white Spanish voice at that thing saying, hey, this is not right. And I'm racist against your theory because it threatens me. Which is just so cringy because it's like political messaging on its face. Like it couldn't be like a guy who's taken seriously, like, hey, honestly, this doesn't make any sense because of what we know. So you're proposing what is kind of pretty much ludicrous. Instead, it's this mean, angry white guy that's like, you're wrong because the science is settled, right? Which
where have
you
we
couldn't
heard that
question
before?
the science a while ago, but now I guess that's what we do again.
Well, then remember, this is like mirroring the whole conversation that Nicolas Cage has in the second movie about mud. And so that's what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like, remember the second movie Remember when they talked about how the world thought that this guy was bad, but he was actually good? That's what this is.
I mean, I guess you got more of it from me. I just got lady good, man bad, guy who defends lady good. Oh, that's the dad.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I was like, all right. I kind of figured all this was coming anyway.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So after that was the intro. I wrote just bad flashback. I was like, this is bad flashback. Like,
yeah.
this is
well, I like the intro, by the way.
The kitchen with, I actually like the intro too. I have that written down. I said, music's okay. I wrote down the composers or the music. It was like Trevor Robin. I was going to look up what else he did. Cool intro. A lot of spiral. Like, I get it. Like they're shoving that spiral down my throat.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I get it. I got it the first time on the first thing you showed me on the box. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I get it. But the map is cool, where it's like heated up trails. Like I like that.
Yes.
And that's where I kind of realized I was like, oh, there's people working on this that are like competent.
Yes. Yes. Like you
hey,
can
this
see
map
that
we should take our time with and do it right. It's like, oh, actually, that does look pretty good.
Even through the worst parts, you can kind of see, okay, well, you can definitely tell that there's someone here that gives a shit.
Yeah. And then let's see, I got that. And then the next scene was a motion crying scene.
Yeah. About, I never knew that about my parents.
I never knew my parents loved each other and loved me.
Yep.
Okay. And then I have, this is before I knew him. I can't remember his name, but sketchy white guy is a reformed good guy. He's trying again. He's got to walk down that path, and he's doing more. And
is that the Chinese guy?
No, I have the white guy sits down next to her. Am I crazy? Where she's crying, and then it's the music guy.
I think so, because it goes from
the intro, the first scene right after the intro, scene
to just Ethan, her Chinese or her Asian friend.
There's Ethan, and then
it goes to no, because it goes to the FBI agents, and then the other dude comes in and talks with her.
I swear there's a scene between that. It's where she's crying and he comes in, but that's fine because the next scene is the FBI agents, which I don't know what they're doing. I feel like they're not needed in the show.
It's supposed to be a moment between a legacy character where we're like, hey, I remember him. And that's all it is. At least right now, maybe in the finale, everything will make sense. I doubt that. But
I have a feeling that somebody's a bad guy. And they're the ones feeding information or something. Because I wrote Agent girl meet up with doctor. Bad white agent tries to thank /flirt /encourage. And then it says, I believe in you. And I think, why?
Right, exactly. We haven't seen anything
special. Yeah, it's just the same trope where it's like, girl who is great.
Yeah, so like in this instance, okay, well, there's a little bit of work, a little bit working for her, for us to think, okay, there's something about her. The first being she's an FBI agent. Okay, well, not everyone's an FBI agent, so there's something about her. But we need something more for the whole I believe in you to make sense. Just being an FBI agent is not enough.
Yeah,
tell us she was number one in her class, or
something.
Tell us her father was an international criminal that got arrested by the FBI, and she wants to make amends. Something for us to buy into.
Yeah,
we should believe in this girl.
Marksman award on her desk.
Yes, yeah.
She might not have hard. The best theories, but she'll fucking shoot the guy.
Yeah, it's not hard. We just gave you 3 plausible ways to fix the issue.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Just remember that. He was like, I believe in you. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Why? And then the next scene is they're singing the lullaby and they find out it's an ancient code. And I wrote it in like that cap like the cap in the lowercase.
Yeah.
Like, ancient code. The treasure can't go to anyone else. They're the only ones who can find it. And then this is where I started having pluses and minuses for actors. So I have bad Asian actor. So Ethan, he's just so cringy. I don't.
Yeah.
He is bad in this show. He's not
great.
He's hard to look at.
The problem is he's they should have gotten, I don't know, did you ever watch Marco Polo?
I loved Marco Polo.
Okay, yes. Netflix was stupid for ending it. But yes.
God.
The guy that played Remy Hill, that played Prince Jingham, that's who they should have gotten. Every time I see Ethan, I go, Prince Jingham looks weird. And it's, oh, that's not him. This is like the great value version.
This isn't even that. This is like the version where you just leave it in the shelf and you're like, why did I even buy this?
Yeah, great value.
Oh, well, because it's like the list said you need this guy. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll find a spot for him. He's a concerned guy.
Yeah. He's going to wind up being the mansplainer later.
He's, you can tell he's pretty toxic. He's too protective. And he's got all these traits that are bad.
I also think he's in law school or something, because there are several times that he's called for what would basically be legal advice, and he speaks in such a way that's like, okay, he's definitely a 1L.
Oh, okay. So, well, good thing he knows everything then. If he's a 1L.
Oh yeah. That's because we're geniuses. 1Ls know everything.
Yeah. Well, I know genius, but I know that 1Ls are smart enough to know everything.
Yeah.
But I did. Okay. So the next scene is the clue room.
Yeah.
National Treasure member berries, 3 MacGuffins. I think that the guy's dad is still out there. I mean,
yeah.
He's like
100%.
He dies mysteriously, never came back, and it's like, okay,
we've been told he's dead like 5 times. He's
100%
alive.
Yeah, or the end of season 1. Well, my grandpa and dad are Masons, so therefore the Masons must be doing it. It's like, oh, okay,
Oh, this is the other thing, real quick. I don't know if you saw this. Do you know how they got the obsidian box?
I didn't see how they got it. No.
Yeah. The 2 girls walked into a Masonic lodge.
Oh. Well, good thing it was barely an inconvenience.
How many Masonic lodges allow women inside?
How did they even find one?
Well, I mean, it says right on the front of them now, Masonic Lodge, post number 923.
Yeah, but you think they'd keep the good stuff in a different whatever. I mean, that's just I'm only reviewing what I got to work. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
dope suit of armor in the background of Sandusky's thing.
Is
really
cool.
Liked it. Yes. You definitely know that if this show succeeds at all, there are probably 7 or 8 different mysteries in those in that room. That's definitely going to become the clubhouse.
That's where I got the idea. I was like, this should be serialized. Like we should always be in this room. Like, this is a cool room. Like they should all be comfortable in it. Like they should all live there or something. Like have that be the premise, right? Like otherwise they're just a bunch of trespassers.
Exactly. It would be super easy and actually kind of a fun idea. You'd have Jess and maybe a combination of the rest of them that go out. But then back at the place, you'd have I can't remember her name, the black girl, because she's the tech girl. You'd have her, you'd have her set doing all the hacking and everything. That wouldn't be a terrible
what
show.
About at one point they were like they did it pretty great where she was the one. Well, I guess I take that back because I was actually mistaken about that when I was watching it. So I realized that there was not that good of a moment. I thought when they had that moment when they were like, all right, the call is going out to the exterminator. I thought she was going to intercept and pretend to be like the exterminator.
I did too.
I was like, oh, that's pretty clever. Like, and make her be like the tech girl who's like pretending to be, sending emails and making up Facebook stories. Like, that's fine. Like, that's actually almost cool.
Yeah.
But they didn't go that route. And I was like, kind of disappointed. I was like, oh, that would have been a good area too. But we'll get to Graceland because I've got, a whole bunch of stuff with that. So we're in the clue room. Too much history too quickly. Right? They were like, oh, remember this? And like the Sun King. And the Sun King was Louis XIV. And Louis XIV, they named Louisiana after him. Should we check Louisiana? It's like, oh my God, that was 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Flesh that out. Show some pictures of Louis the Sun King. Talk about what he did. Why did they call him the Sun King? If that's the route you want to go. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute. by the way, it was Sun Records and Elvis was the king of rock and roll, even though I don't think that term would have been used by the time. Wasn't he wasn't the king of rock and roll like the day he started making music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the other issue is
that's like a colloquial term.
There's once again a little throwback to the first movie where Oren is sitting there going, "Oh, do you not know this? I know something you don't know."
Yeah, I didn't get that from that scene. I feel like they were all just spitting out history facts from.
I might be off on the scene then, but
I know what scene you're talking about in the original. I didn't feel like there was any homage to that. I felt
like
it was more of like a
that not okay? I'm scrolling through. Oh wait, no, I can Control F.
Oh, dude, I just got it. Salazar is Sketchy Guy's dad. That's who it is.
You think so?
Yeah, I just realized it. I'm like, they introduced the same thing. His dad's still out there. Who is Salazar? I'm like, oh, that's the same person. Anyway,
yeah, it's the whole thing where they give you a question and then they always show the same person in the next shot after they've been talking about that.
Yeah, Elvis is a Cherokee, and there's a love triangle. That's blah. Okay. And season 5. Bad guy exposition dump scene where Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's acting bad. She's like, why didn't she take the money? And then you get the iPad lady is like, here's her whole story. Can you believe this whole story? Why would she be so good and noble and strong and wise and smart?
Yeah, real quick, the whole you don't know about this. It's when they're talking about the secret room at Graceland.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember that. I remember that part where it's like
it's just hey, remember this?
Yeah, okay, I can see that. You guys don't know about this? Okay, yeah. I can see that kind of almost playing an homage to the first one where he's like, oh, I can't believe you don't know something. But again, it was all the history was getting thrown around where it was like, oh, we need to end up at Graceland. And it was like, oh okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Like you're going off of Sun Records and he's the king of rock and roll. Okay. Like, okay. All right. I guess we got to get to Graceland. The episode's called Graceland, so we got to get to Graceland. Yep. So...
and so then we've got, the next scene where they tell us her backstory. We're 3 episodes in, and we're just now finding out about her backstory.
Yeah, I call her iPad lady.
Yeah, I feel like there was a better way of finding that out that actually would have made us sympathize with Jess
before the 3rd episode.
Yes, but remember, shows don't get good till like the 5th episode.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's kind of like the writers are themselves, pretending to be Jess because Jess doesn't like to just share her whole story. So we as the viewer shouldn't feel like we're entitled to know our main character's story and motivation until we fucking hear it from the bad guys. Like, what? There's 4 friends. Why don't we know any? Like, there's the best friend. Be like, hey, by the way, who is she? Be like, oh, dude, you don't know her story? You know what I mean? Let me tell you why I love Jess.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bad Rick and Morty plot. Like, oh, is this the time Jess saved Christmas? Tell me about your favorite time when Jess saved Christmas.
See, and this is the thing. So in the first 2 episodes, my biggest complaint was it felt like she knew everything, and we had no justification for that. And here we get justification. Per pick of colleges, Harvard, Yale, Columbia. We're talking about some of the best universities in the world. And if you had given us that information at the beginning, somehow you didn't have to put a stacks of acceptance letters on a table as we're going around her room, and then put a stack of medical bills. That would tell us. And they wait until the 3rd episode where a bunch of people are already like, no, why is this just another, oh, she's a girl, so she knows everything.
I mean, I just literally exposition dump. Okay, this is this is where one of those moments where I was like, this is a 3, this is a 2 or a 3. Like, at least you're giving us backstory, but like it's delivered in the worst possible way. And then I have a note here. I was like, why does this underling? Why does iPad lady think that it's just for Instagram followers? Like, is there any aspect of the story where it's involving social media? Why even put a line in, even if she's supposed to be stupid? Why put that line in that's just clearly not relevant? And then I wrote, is that Reese Iffens? Because because I felt like the other bad guy from the wrong angle had this very Otto Hightower look, and I was like, "Is that Reese Ifans?"
I see that. I see that. Okay.
And then a few scenes later, I said, "Nope, definitely not Reese Ifans. Lame."
Yeah. So this is.
Cheap box.
We're having the bad guys open the box. We already saw the good guys open the box, but here's the bad guys opening the box, and there's some issues. One, it's not pointed. There's no mention about pointing this box in a certain direction. Well, she had to point it in a certain direction. So is she stupid?
Nah, move on. We already forgot about that. Our heroes don't have to, or they don't, bad guys don't have to follow the same rules as the heroes.
Right.
Everyone knows that.
And then the other thing I have is, okay, well, this is 500 years old. You would not need a sonic device to hear clicks. Like, that is dumb.
Yeah,
he's got some stethoscope thing rigged up.
Tool,
but it just looks
many of your senses on it as possible.
Also, let me play this real quick. I'm not playing it on the screen.
I see. I've been following that thing the whole time.
Okay. So it is okay. When I think I looked away for a second, and then I came back, and I didn't see the things in his ears, and I was just like, why the hell is he using this thing? It's not in his ears, but it is actually in his ears. Okay. So they figure the thing out.
Yeah, scene 6. So that's it for the bad guys. They have no.
They open the thing,
that was the scene. I was like, is that Reese Ifans?
And we get the whole she's kind of clever thing because we see the thing that she put inside. So now we go to the
doctor
medical examiner,
who's bad at his job, should be fired because she's breaking protocol. She's going around rank just because he's thinking with his dick. And she's so bad about it too. She's like, actually, I'm bad. I'm not. You can get me in trouble now. And he's like, no, there's something about you I like. Your way that the script tells me that I have to like you.
Yeah, it's there's a bunch of better ways to write this. In fact, you could take almost any medical examiner scene from any network television show you've seen, and it would be better.
Yeah, this just looks like he just looks like a scumbag.
Yeah, and she's framed in white light, and he's framed in evil blue.
Oh, no, I think they're gonna get together. I think it's gonna be like, hey,
I
understand that
she's gonna end up with she's gonna end up with her boss.
Oh no, he's a bad guy, dude.
No.
Yeah, this is the beta support for her. See, you can see the teamwork where it's like
I don't believe for a second they're making her the other FBI agent a bad guy.
Why? What else would he? Dude, I got that in the recap. That's in my first note. I said bad white guy. When the first scene where he's like, we don't need a toxicology report. I'm like, oh, he's the bad guy.
No. I think that he is wanting his old boss to be laid to rest and not continually picked at.
Nope. Wrong.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's put first rounds on whoever who's ever wrong.
You need to be sneaky about it. Be like, okay, well, just to be safe, in case somebody murdered our boss and your friend, let's go ahead and run this toxicology report. Like it's clearly a red herring of like, don't go ahead and don't run the fingerprints on that gun we found.
I think we're gonna find out that Sandusky was up to something, and he did not want Sandusky's legacy to be ruined. Like maybe they'll find out.
Motive. That's still not protocol and bad.
Well, yeah, sure, but he's not in cahoots with Catherine Zeta-Jones.
See, I think. All right, well then we'll just have to watch the show.
There is somebody who is in cahoots, but it's not him. Okay, so here we are. We're on the way to Graceland. Which, by the way, is a lot smaller than I thought it was.
I kind of always pictured it as just like a house. That's kind of all it is. It's just like a dinky old house.
Yeah, I kind of always thought it was like in the shape of Elvis's sideburns or something.
Yeah, or like a mansion, just like a colossal, tacky mansion.
Mm-hmm.
No, it just basically looks like your grandma's house, like anybody's grandma's house, you know.
So we've got they get scared that they're getting followed. They pull over, and then there's really nothing that happens in between, like on the drive.
Yeah, let's see. I've got between scene 6 with the doctors. I have one thing for scene 7 is just iPad lady.
Yep.
And she just won't get off that iPad. Obviously, it makes her feel good.
Well, she's the tech lady.
No, the bad girl.
Yeah, I know. She's their tech lady, I think.
Oh, she's their tech lady. Yeah, okay, tech lady. I have iPad lady and tech girl.
Yeah, so here we are. We're at the heist, and this is by far the best part of the show so far. There are everything.
Oh, the go over plan scene. Yeah.
So
go over the plan. Oh, I hated that scene because there was the tech girl is like, I'm tech, and then they go over the plan even though they're not supposed to, and then the Asian guy sucks. I gave him -2 points in this scene. And then the guys, oh, by the way, this guy's a guitar expert. I was like, oh, for God's sakes, this is so annoying.
So this is the thing. I think that made sense. You know, he plays guitar. He wants to be a country music star. I think it's not a far stretch that he knows guitars. I like that they decide the best way to do this is by making them afraid of the moths. I think that's actually kind of clever. And then I definitely thought the guy that plays head security, I don't know why he's in this. He must need a paycheck because he's a regular on a bunch of different TV shows. He always plays like some, big cop guy.
I feel like these guys just don't know these shows are going to be stinkers.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like they get all that. They look professional. The cameras look well. There's probably a good sound stage, probably good, food spread,
Yeah.
Like, hey, this looks like every other production I've ever been on. All I got to do is wear a suit and walk around and talk to a microphone. But how do you want to go through the Graceland scene? Because we might have to kind of do the Graceland scene, and then let me see how much left is after that. It's mostly just the Graceland scene. Is there?
Yeah, you got Graceland, then you got her little weird. You got Catherine Zeta-Jones's thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got she's DACA, and then
Well, let's see how quickly we can get through the Graceland.
So So like I said, they plant moss, and they're clear to inform us, the viewer, that these moths will not eat the clothes. I don't have a big problem with that. I think that, because you've got people in that van that would have been worried about that, I think it's okay to make sure the viewer knows.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those things where it's like, I'm good with it or without it,
Yes, I agree.
I can understand that, usually when you go to these places, they don't let you even bring a bottle of water in.
Yes.
Because there is so much nice stuff there that, all of a sudden now you need one of these oil protesters to go into Graceland. It seems like they'll be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So it was fine either way. I was like, okay, well, they need to figure out how to get their thing in. I don't know if moths were the easiest thing. I feel like there could have been a number of things, like a box of crickets,
True.
But I get it. Let's see. I actually kind of started to like the dude bro in this episode or in this scene. Oren, yeah. I got dude bro, music guy, and Asian guy. Or concerned guy, we'll say that. Bro guy is actually likable. CGI moths. I mean, really? Couldn't get moths.
I'll tell you, it reminded me of the moths they use in The Magicians in the first season.
I don't know if I saw that. You can tell when people are interacting with them, like the guys like overacting to compensate for the fact that the moths aren't there.
Yeah.
I'm like, so they're definitely not real because you wouldn't be acting like that. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Here's what I have. It's like intercept call, kind of cool. And then I wrote later, I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, it really would have been cool if they had been if she had intercepted it and done what would have been the easiest thing and would have bought them all the time in the world. So we've just got a little problem. We want to set an appointment for tomorrow afternoon instead of timing something. Which how'd they get the time?
How'd they get the call? Like, let's be honest.
Well, that too. Yeah, sure. But how did you come up with 13 minutes?
Again, I just didn't know where that was coming from. I feel like they were taking it in a direction that I liked, where it was like, oh, you could even do something funny with her, like being a bad customer service rep. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like
that would be great.
Tongue tying with them and being like, everyone has to deal with bad customer service people. We would almost endear us to the security guards a little bit, like have a funny security guard having to jump through the customer service thing only to keep going back to her. You know what I mean? Like, oh, to place a schedule, press 3. You know what I mean? And he's got to wait on hold, and then it's her again. And be like, oh, hey, you know what I mean? Like, that would be kind of funny, you know?
Yeah. No, I also think I'd like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so be that as it may, and I'm disappointed with what they could have had. I have good banter when the guys go in undercover. I was like, here's a good point for the Asian guy. I can see why he's an actor. He's actually good on his feet. He's kind of funny. Like when he's not playing the character in this show, he's actually likable. So like as soon as he gets to improv, I'm like, oh, this actor's actually pretty good. Minus point for the white guy because he just kind of stands there and looks stupid. It's like, well, you knew you had to be a little improvisational, you know?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have had him do that or, you know, make him a mute or just be like, oh, he's my apprentice, actually. I'm not going to just let him go, you know?
Exactly, yes. Like he's our trainee. We have a policy where we always have to be with our trainees.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you'd wanted 2 guys out here, but, you know, I got to train this guy, and he's just going to have to stick with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Plan not going together when they get split up. Automatically into the secret room. Let's talk about that. It's like, okay, well, we got moths. Better let the guy right into the secret room we don't let anybody into.
Exactly.
I'd be like, that's the last
no entering first to see, hey, are there even moths in here?
Nothing. Just like, she literally says, all right, you better take him to the room. And it's like, surely there's a basement first. They'll be like, we'll check the basement first, guys. Like, we only saw them in this room. We don't. You're like, well, who are these people? Are so stupid. And there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
Like,
and
you're like,
yeah. So you've got the actual guy shows up, and I liked the whole trying to get him to leave. I thought that was actually kind of endeared me to Oren just a little bit.
Which one? Again, the exterminator to leave?
Yeah, well, and then, you know, getting him to go to a different place is, I believe, what they wound up doing. But the big thing I liked about this is Suspicious Minds is one of my favorite songs. So I did like that he sang that. I didn't think he sang it very well. He sounded too soy-like.
Got to stall the real exterminator while the girls sit back. I noticed that they hadn't done anything until that point.
Yeah.
And
the so then Jess decides,
his stuff is good. His he was fine. I wrote plus a point for this guy. You know what I mean? Like he's earning his way back. I can see why he's doing this. She must know the truth. She can't let it go. She can't admit that the plan didn't work.
Yes. So I
personally feel like they showed so much of it that I actually feel like I don't have to go to Graceland now.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
It's just a small room that you're going to have to politely walk around things. Like, be like, oh, excuse me. Like, even the scene where there's, like, his escape is just the security guards being polite and being like, excuse me.
Exactly, yeah.
I was like, this is so cringy. Like, this is so cringy.
Yeah, there's this is definitely the highlight of the show so far. And whether or not that's because it's Elvis or
production value.
Yeah, I definitely think this kind of makes the show worth it so far. But then then we've got
watching it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like here, this is like the angles aren't bad. It's not like a shaky cam. Like it's they took their time and filmed something at Graceland. I'm sure that wasn't easy. I'm sure in the actors' heads, like, hey, this is an exciting day. We're filming at Graceland. Like, I'm sure that was fun and cool, and all the extras were there, and so it added like a realness to it. Like the first ones had. Remember how it was just like, there'd be all these people around, and you'd use those people to your advantage because the world is a big place. It's not just you and a soundstage,
right. And then
the code hacking scene. Oh my god!
Yeah.
We go over the code hacking where she has a superpower.
Yeah, and she sees the codes.
She just knows all important dates to Elvis. Like she's just like, oh, the day he bought Graceland. I'm like, who knows this much about Elvis? Like you must be less than 25.
Yeah, she's 22, I believe.
22 years old, and all this stuff. Like, no offense, most adults would be like, did he buy Graceland? Did the studio buy Graceland? Who's Graceland actually owned by? Like,
yeah,
like it's so like you're just gonna. And who's the Elvis expert? Like, maybe somebody should have been an Elvis expert, been like, hey, here's all the dates that are important to Elvis.
Yeah, like
set anything up. Be like, hey, I printed out the most common dates for Elvis. Like, have the girl being like, I'm running through all my software of like Elvis stuff. And it's like, dude, have anybody do anything other than girl who's trying to hack an 8-digit code.
Yeah. What is that? 100 million combinations?
Yeah. In the room where it's like, hey, shouldn't you guys have like talked about that you're going to run into this code before you get into this situation?
Yeah. And then you've got, also the fact that this is a code into a secret room that doesn't like alert people when the first code is wrong.
Right. And it's also a code. Why isn't this a key card? That's what I thought it was going. I was like, oh, they're going to have to pickpocket the guy. One of the people's going to have to be light on their hands or something, and there could have been some opportunity for some real schmooze here. Like, hey, have these guys pull off a heist. Like, people like heists. You know what I mean? Like, let's do it. Like, that's what we like the first two for.
This is definitely a Disney level heist.
Yeah. So I have secret power scene where she's just like, oh, I figured out the code. Everybody always loves spontaneous acoustic guitar. Always.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I noticed that nobody, like my dad, if he was in like a place that he paid money for, would be like, dude, stop playing that guitar in my ear.
Yes, exactly.
He wouldn't just be like, oh, let's jam out now. Like, this is the time in a small crowded space for an unplugged acoustic guitar. This is the time.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that and I was like, I would be pissed off.
Well, and then he doesn't give the guitar back to the guy.
Oh, I guess he doesn't, does he?
Yeah, no. I think he just kind of leaves it hanging.
How does the laundry get back? So it's like when she goes down to the tunnel and she has to move the hanging clothes and the code. The guy who then comes in for that terrible scene where they have to he doesn't know that she's in the room, so she's got to hide, and like she doesn't even do anything clever like move around in the room. You know what I mean? They don't even have the moment where it's like they film in the Fellowship of the Ring where it's like, Frodo's moving around and the
pillars,
and then he like thinks he's gone, and then he finds him, or he thinks he's about to find somebody and she's not there because she's actually like, I don't know, anything clever. But how does the clothes get back?
Well, I imagine, which it would have been nice to see this, but I imagine what happened is she turns around and moves them back.
They had a whole opportunity to be like, he's right behind her in that scene.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just small little things that are catching him up. Like, she just had enough time to put the laundry back. She just had enough time to take the elevator, and perhaps maybe the power goes out. And so she's stuck in the room down there, and she's using her phone to look around, and he can't get down there because the power's out, because the tech girl cut the power to that room.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this is weird.
There's a bunch of little things that would have been great.
Tedious same room scene.
And then we get
people on the stairs were weird. They were just staring at the guy, and I was like, this is weird.
The extras,
weird crowd overall. I was like, this is a weird crowd.
I got the feeling these were new extras.
I guess, or they were just people's friends and family. Like, hey, come on the set. They're not paying me this week, but they said you can bring your friends.
Yeah. You know, and then obviously they get away, obviously, and we get the scene in the White Woman Mountains, where again mirrors a scene from National Treasure where the bad guy loses someone that they've been working with for a long time. There's just a lot of like repetition in this show that is only there to kind of go, hey, remember those movies? Remember that? Well, we did the same thing.
Yeah. I have the white guy is better with the singing. Like, I can see why he was cast now. Because at first I was like, why is this guy just like hands in the pockets all shit? He's a musician who's also an actor. I was like, oh, okay. He's actually really good. If that's his voice, and I doubt he's actually playing, but like if he can play the guitar, I can see. He looks better with a guitar in his hand. He like looks like his shoulders are tight because he's used to playing a guitar. Like, I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the tech girl with the footage tracks. I was like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense. She's been staring at the cameras the whole time. That better have some use. So.
Oh, I hope so.
But scene 10, love triangle is lame.
Yes, 100%. Because you can see that's what this isn't a friend being protective of his friend. This is, you're getting too close, and I don't want you near the girl that I might like.
I think this is even still in the car when they're all excited, and he's like, "We can play it through the track." And she's like, "Yeah, you still have interest in this." And he's like, "I'm jealous. You should stop doing this." And then scene 11 is the bad guy cave scene, and this is where I had something funny. I was like, "Okay, so definitely not Rhys Ifans, lame." And then I put, "I feel zero threat. Focus or peons are too mundane, part of the rest of the crew. It should be expendable." And then I wrote, his drone crashes. So she says, "Oh, Black Hawk Down." I was like, that's in poor taste. Those guys actually die.
Yes.
Like, that's that's not funny.
No. Yeah. I had like a very shocked, let's call it a giggle when I heard it.
I was shocked. I was actually a little like, because you think about those Delta fighters.
Yeah.
Who died.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In real life, those people really died.
Yeah, it wasn't. If it was just a movie, it would actually probably be a little humorous. But it's not just a movie; it was a real life thing, and it wasn't. This wasn't a Hollywoodized event. That it's, as far as I've ever heard and read, almost point for point exactly what happened.
Yeah, so I was like, that's in bad taste. And then I have a line pointing to my other thing where I said, "I feel zero threat." And then I wrote, I should have seen the white guy dying. Poor Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes,
because she's just bad. She's just bad in this, and like her entire like arc and storyline is bad. Like that, it's just bad.
Yeah.
I only got a few scenes left here, so I might as well wrap this up. The bar scene.
Yes. So. The heck? So you got the bar scene where it's just another it's like the real start to the lovers triangle that we're really seeing that it's going to be this is what the secondary story is going to be. It's going to be more lovers quarrels, and you already know that probably in about 2 or 3 episodes, there's going to be something bad that happens because Ethan is going to feel too threatened by the music guy.
Yeah, and Ethan is the spy.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that at the end.
I could definitely see it being Ethan.
He is the spy because he wants the money for the girl so she can just live in peace and not have to worry about this and just be done.
Yeah.
And he thinks that that's a good way for her to get citizenship too. I have it all written down later, but let's see. Jess can't break the law. DACA stuff, slightly compelling, but it has to be like there has to be something, right?
And it's not as accurate as I would like. And again, it's not something that's very difficult to find out. This, if they wanted to be accurate, first off, call someone that's on DACA and just say, hey, I just want to make sure if you do anything bad, do you get deported? And there are probably some people that think yes, but no, you don't. It's from what I've been able to tell, it's sort of like a 3 strikes thing. If you were to go and murder someone, yes, you'd be deported. But if you got, speeding tickets, no, you're not getting deported. If you got there's like a 3 strikes thing with misdemeanors, 3 misdemeanors, and you have to go for immigration judge and plead your case and stuff like that. But it's not like, hey, if the FBI start a file on you, you'll get picked up tomorrow in a dark white van and dropped off at the border.
Well, let me tell you something.
Not what
we
happens.
all got files at the FBI.
Oh, yeah.
That seems more plain every day. But yeah, I agree. There's probably a lot more bureaucratic red tape there. Like she'd have hearings and she'd probably have a chance to be represented and stuff like that. Granted, you don't want to get caught stealing from Graceland or trying to break into the secret room. I mean, even that would have been funny if it was like, let's say the goofy, funny dude, bro, was like the Instagram guy, right? And he did it for the clout. Like he was like, I got to go in there with you. I'll go in with you because I want the videos. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just, there needed to be something more there than just she, and she didn't even know what she was looking for. She's like, oh, maybe this record. You know what I mean? I was like, All right, whatever. The next scene is when Guy shows up. Ethan shows up to her place. Which would look like to me her $3,500 a month apartment.
Oh my gosh!
Give me a break.
I would love that apartment.
I was like, yeah, you look real. Like everything's really in jeopardy with you. Like you have like a more stable house than most people could ever dream of.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Minus point for the Asian guy. He sucks.
Yeah, he's a big old whipped wimp in this.
Yeah, and it's just every time he looks like he's losing all the points he got from his good banter from Graceland. Yeah. It's like, let's see. Scene 14. She talks to him about
shows up. Yeah.
He's my oldest friend, so total cuck. I did like the line, and this is where I started to get compelling, where she was like, it changes how people treat me. Like people have to treat me with kid gloves, which I bet you would be frustrating if people treated you differently because of that.
Yeah, and I like that, and I agree. That did I changed how I kind of thought about a lot of the show. I won't say a lot of the show, but there were definitely moments that I changed my mind because of that line. I was like, oh, I think I see it a little differently.
Well, that was one of those moments for me where I was like, oh, somebody actually cares. Somebody was actually like, hey, we have to make this a little bit more nuanced. Like, let's just have this girl, instead of having a chip on her shoulder, like, oh, people treat me differently because they find out I'm undocumented or find out I'm illegal. It's like, well, not only, like, it's like, she's like, yeah, sure, there's people that don't like that, but then, like, other people who have good intentions treat me differently.
Yes.
And I was like, man, that must be difficult. Like, that actually must be hard to be, like, if you're a character or a person, like, that must be difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
To be like, I can't reveal part of myself because people will like literally treat me with kid gloves. Like, oh, like you're fragile. Like, and this girl obviously isn't fragile. Like she's brave. Yeah. She's everything you want in a hero. You know what I mean? This is one of those moments where I was like, oh, if she wasn't sitting in her $3,500 a month apartment, I'd feel a little bit bad for her.
Yes.
Let's see.
As made a point in there. So Az and Jane Theory are reviewing this as well, and there's I don't mind saying it. Theirs are much better than ours. They're very good. Az is awesome. I love him. But they made a point where, so in the first episode, Oren and the tech girl break up, and so it's obvious then that all three were living together. The second they break up and he moves out, it becomes, I don't know how we're going to afford the rent. So it's like, so y'all were right. So the tech girl is saying, I'll help because I just got 100,000 views on a video of mine. And then Jess is like, oh, well, I'll get like $1 extra at work. And she does, she's like the front desk clerk at a storage facility. So I don't know what fantasy world they're living in, but no way in hell were they affording that place by themselves, which means they were just living off of Oren.
That all checks out.
Which is kind of obvious when it goes to when they at the beginning of this, when they go to his new place, and it's like even nicer than what they were living at.
Yeah, I mean, it just stood out to me. It's like one of those things. Like, I know you don't watch too much Red Letter Media, but there's this really funny part where Mike is like, I'm an adult and I understand things like square footage.
Yeah.
So, like, I know that house that they're showing me in this movie is not actually the house they're shooting the movie inside.
Exactly. Yes.
It was like this movie where this like old Victorian house was being shown on the outside, and like those houses are traditionally like very cramped and like they have little nooks and spots for stuff. And then like when they show the inside, it's like a Californian spacious.
Well, that's one of the things that that people say drew them to Downton Abbey is because everything, like 80% of what you see filmed is actually filmed inside the house. And then there are some things they have to do on a soundstage, but the soundstage is based on the measurements of the house. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah. Well, that leaves us to our final scene with drunk Catherine Zeta-Jones and iPad girl begins to despair. Nelson Mandela quote, repurposed Nelson Mandela quote from the Sun Tzu quote. The Nelson Mandela quote was essentially, don't judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I failed.
Times I get up.
I get up from my failure. Whereas the Sun Tzu quote is, my greatest glory is not in victory, but in rising each time after defeat. So same thing. You just use it for somebody else for your, political brownie points. Newfound resolve. They clink their glasses. How did Catherine Zeta-Jones get the clue? Did she have a spy, a mole? I have written down here. I think it's Ethan, and he's doing it to save Jess, and spite Music Guy.
Of course, now that I think about it, that means Ethan followed Jess to the house.
Yeah.
Because at this moment, only two people have heard it. Jess and the Music Guy.
Unless it's the Music Guy who needs the money.
Yeah. Well, he does. He does. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. So he actually does need money. He's
he's the only one who worked. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, his exactly. His grandfather left him the house, and apparently the house needs to be brought up to code and a bunch of stuff, and he wants to move, but this is going to keep him in Louisiana for like 3 more years, but he wants to get to Nashville to start recording.
Well, that's a red herring then.
Yep. But yeah,
so overall thoughts, Caleb?
This episode was definitely the best. I've just complained about it for an hour and a half and 15 minutes, but this was by far the best. I would have loved to do a live show with you on the first 2 episodes, because what happened with me was I kind of went in thinking, okay, I'm not going to write any notes, which was a bad idea. And there were like 7 things I wanted to hit on. Well, after the 3rd one, I forgot the rest of them and just kind of ended it, which is why the review, which is supposed to be a live reaction to the first 2 episodes, is really a live reaction to the first episode and about the first 5 minutes of the second episode. Which is why I included some of my findings in the beginning of this episode. But yeah, no, 4.5, 5 maybe on its good points.
Yeah, I said there was 4. It's somewhere in the 4s. There were moments that were 3s, and there were moments that were 6s. I really did enjoy the guy's banter when he got it. I was like instantly like, I was like, oh, this is actually more charming now all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it more because of that. So, that was kind of where I came in from there. And then
it's definitely not the worst Disney show this year.
No, that's funny you mentioned that, because I started I didn't want my Disney getting tainted, like my algorithm tainted with all the stuff we're going to watch on there. So I made a trash account. Like literally I named it trash.
There you go.
And I changed it to the She-Hulk picture.
Excellent.
So every time I look, I'm like,
Yeah, it's of the big stuff they've released this year, this actually might be the best.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, we appreciate your time. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and
follow us on Twitter at KingsAdvisors_.
Thank you, Caleb, for the Twitter plug.
Yep.
And on that note, thanks for watching.